7 of us were blessed to be Dick Cheney's grandchildren. The only one of us not here today is our older sister, Katie, who is about to have a baby. When I was 18, my grandpa helped me pack my things in his truck and drove me 8 hours from Jackson Hole to Colorado Springs for my first year of college. Along the way, he gave me advice, warning about the potential dangers associated with your freshman year of college, reminiscing about the days when he was taking my mom to college, and just talking about life in general. I will forever see him that way, driving along an open road and telling me stories about his life while talking about the family that he loved so dearly. I'll forever see him in his leather chair by the fire in his study in Wyoming, snow outside the windows, books piled up, and his beloved dogs at his feet. I'll forever see him on horseback, riding up Spencer's Mountain for sunrise breakfast. I'll forever see him on the South Fork of the Snake, fly rod in hand, perfect cast after perfect cast. Sometimes he even gave one of his grandchildren the coveted seat in the front of the boat. And he didn't even complain too much when, more than once, we hooked him with an out-of-control cast. I'll forever see him at Thanksgiving and Christmas in the kitchen with a towel thrown over his shoulder, cooking for us all. And we will forever be asking him, "Is the turkey ready yet?" The day after my grandpa died, I pulled down the huge boxes of challenge coins he kept in the top of his closet. I spent several hours looking at the coins, turning each one over in my hand to see its unique inscription. As I held each coin, I was struck by just how many places my grandpa had been and how many people he must have met along the way. But this is who Grandpa was. Every person he met meant something to him, and every coin he was handed, he kept forever. Let me close with a few words prepared by our sister Katie, who could not be with us today. Dear Grandpa, the mark you left on our world is remarkable, but it pales in comparison to the one you left on our family. Your unwavering love for us is a legacy we will forever hold close and will pass on to our own children one day. As we prepare to welcome your first great-grandson into the world, please know that we are thinking of you. And if this baby boy grows up to become even half the man that you were, we will consider ourselves profoundly blessed. And rest assured, your great-grandson will be on the water with a fly rod in his hand the moment he can stand.
I am named after my grandpa, and for my whole life, he was always there for me. As Mr. Bush mentioned, one of my favorite stories of my grandpa is when he came to my kindergarten class. My teacher said that Grandpa was the best show and tell since my classmate brought her cow to class. He truly loved that story. We both played high school football, and my grandpa kept the schedule of my games on his desk, and he was nearly at almost all of my games. We were both running backs. I recently read a comment from one of Grandpa's coaches. He said Dick Cheney ran with the speed of a fence post. Grandpa might not have been blessed with great speed, but he taught me that raw determination and grit can lead you to success. He was the captain of his team, and his high school field in Casper is now named after him. Every Christmas, Grandpa would cook our dinner while we hung out in the kitchen watching his favorite John Wayne movies, year after year. We loved to do this even though we had seen these movies dozens of times. I will always remember the hot Wyoming summer days when I was a kid, days that my siblings and I would spend sitting together on our back porch, talking with our grandpa. He would give us important life lessons as well as make us laugh. What I remember specifically about the time I spent with my grandpa was the way he looked at me, how he looked at each of us. This was because when my grandpa looked at you and smiled, he didn't even have to say a word. You could just feel his love. In a way, his gaze alone said, "I love you more than anything." He always told us how proud he was of us. and we will always try to follow his example. To be people driven to love our families, to be respectful, and to live through the lessons he taught us. To put love and our families first. I love you, Grandpa.
When I was on the high school rodeo team in Jackson, Wyoming, my grandpa was my driver. In his Ford F-350 pickup, he hauled me and my horses hundreds of miles to rodeos all across the state. He taught me how to have integrity, how to work hard, how to have grit, how to face adversity, and how to look danger and fear right in the eye and say, "Is that all you got?" I'm pretty sure he's the only person who ever had the title Vice President turned Rodeo Grandpa, and I'm blessed he was mine. After one high school rodeo in Casper, Grandpa drove me to places that had been important to him growing up. He showed me the house he was raised in and told me how he and his brother Bob would shoot rabbits out on the prairie and bring them home for his mom to cook for dinner. He showed me Hat 6 Road, where his dad taught him to drive, and Natrona County High School, where he and my grandma graduated in 1959. For the last stop, he pulled up outside a small house on West Bridge Drive. "You know what that is, Gracie?" he said. "That's where I picked your grandma up for our very first date." On drives to rodeos with my grandpa, he imparted important life lessons. Once, we were talking about how much I like to ride bikes. In response, my grandpa said, "Never ride a bike down the stairs. You will not make it, and your head will go through the drywall." He seemed to be speaking from experience. Dick Cheney was a great rodeo grandpa because he never went anywhere unprepared. You could always count on him to have emergency blankets, flashlights, headlamps, toolkits, different kinds of knives, emergency meals, fly rods, rain gear, pens, and butterscotch lifesavers. Since we usually stayed in the small living quarters of our horse trailer, things got pretty crowded. At one point, the Wall Street Journal got wind that Dick Cheney had turned into a full-time rodeo grandpa and asked to send a reporter to interview him. A few minutes before the reporter was scheduled to arrive, Grandpa and I looked around the living quarters and realized there was stuff everywhere. "Grandpa, we cannot have a Wall Street Journal reporter in here. They're gonna take pictures." I said, "You're right," he said. "Let's shove everything in the bathroom." We ran around and did just that. When we were done, Grandpa looked at me and said, "Gracie, whatever you do, do not let the reporter use the bathroom." Long-haul road trips with my grandpa were extra educational because he did not believe in the use of any navigational devices. We often took the scenic route. He always knew the history of every area we drove through and taught me to stop at all the points of interest markers along the highways. I'll forever see my grandpa in his Stetson right before a barrel race telling me, "Ride hard. Go get him, Grace." And no matter the result, when my run was over, he would say, "Great job, I'm proud of you." My grandpa had a love for the land, a love for his country, and a love for Wyoming. Any day of the week, any hour of the day, he was there to help. He was tough with a kind heart. Dick Cheney wasn't just my grandpa. He was my best friend, my hero, my role model, and the most influential person in my life. And I know he's up in heaven right now with his beloved labs, Nelson, Davy, and Jackson, driving his Ford pickup and catching the biggest cutthroats and rainbows we could only ever imagine.